Hi, I am Pratim Ranjan Bose and you are watching Podcast with Pratim presented by Iravati Research and Communication Center or IRCC. In this edition, we will discuss the Iran-Israel contest and its implications on the global as well as Indian economy. India has interests in both Iran and Israel. Both the countries are critical for our geopolitical and economic strategy goals. I have with me Ambassador Anil Trigunayat, India's former envoy to Jordan, Libya, Malta. He has a long experience of working across continents, including USA and Russia. Welcome to Podcast with Pradeep, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Pratimji.
Sir, the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, Benjamin Netanyahu, seems to have bombed the peace deal proposal of the US. Ismail Haniyeh, the political chief of Hamas, was killed in Tehran while attending the oath-taking ceremony of new president Masoud Pezeshkian. He is considered a centrist or pro-West in their standard, and that adds more color to the story. Available reports suggest that Iran doesn't look forward to an war at this juncture, but it is preparing for a fitting reply to ensure the grip on the regional politics. What is your view, sir?
Well, as you know, we are into the 10th month of this Israel-Hamas war. And the very fact that this war between a state and a non-state actor has gone on for 10 months clearly indicates the limitations of the state power and the Israeli approach that only security can be the solution. That only by bombing the people, bombing this, they can achieve the results. I believe they have not been successful in that. Of course, more than 40,000 civilians in Gaza have been killed. Hundreds of Israeli soldiers have also been killed. And that what we are looking at today is a situation where is a possibility of a greater escalation, and which is something that the whole world is worried about. And this is not the first time. You know, when Mr. Netanyahu, since the war began, went on his first trip to United States or anywhere in the world, he has already been targeted by the International Court of Justice, by the International Criminal Court issuing arrest warrant against him, by the United Nations condemning him, large number of the global south and the world condemning the killings that are going through the disproportionate. While there was sympathy for Israel in the beginning regarding the deaths that occurred due to the terror attacks by Hamas. But whenever Israel or Netanyahu has come under greater pressure from the United States, because that's the only country today which can really pressure them. So whenever he comes under pressure with them, he ignites something that brings back the American support. You remember in April when he was under a big pressure to agree to the ceasefire deal from all sides, the humanitarian disaster was there. He attacked a Iranian consulate in Damascus, killing 7 people there.
Right.
That almost nearly came the Iran and Israel, which have this existential problem with each other and suffer from this so-called mutually destructive syndrome, that they nearly came to the war. That means the whole region would have conflagrated. But Iranians at that time, under pressure and under advice from various countries, their friends and others, Americans, they were in touch with them. They said we have to give a fitting response because this was a violation of their sovereignty.
Right.
Attacking consulate or an embassy. So after a few days, they attacked. But they had already intimated everything to the Americans and others that this is what we are planning to do in that time. And that's why most of their drones and missiles were intercepted. And few attacked the place from where the actual missile had taken off to attack the Iranian consulate. So it was averted, both sides, and Israel also made a small counterattack, which was also insignificant at the time. But from the very beginning, if you remember,
it was more of a show.
yes, It was more of a show in the sense is that, yes, we are equally strong. We cannot take things for granted. That was the Iran's response. But Israel always wants to have one-upmanship in the region. It is the strongest army led, but which is being compromised actually as we move forward because it's a tough. And we have seen as whenever you are fighting against a non-state actor, it's not easy to win any war, even
Hamas,
any war
Hamas,
for that
Hamas
matter.
broke
Russia,
their Iron Dome.
yes, I mean, Hamas and then Hezbollah is there. Then you have Houthis on the other side. Then you have Kataib Hezbollah in Iraq. So all these work as sort of an axis of resistance and proxies for Iranian foreign policy and strategic policy in the region. So Iran doesn't have to fight directly with Israel unless it is forced to. And the what happened on July 31st was actually something that was really uh, would have brought it once again to
And
its
the
position.
day before, they killed that military commander of Hezbollah.
Yes, Soleimani. But no, the day before, same afternoon actually, they killed the Hezbollah commander, and the same evening, this person was the Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh was killed apparently by a bomb which has been hidden for a long time, 2 months or 3 months. So this also reflects on poorly on the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, which is in charge of the security there. So both sides we have this problem. Now the world obviously sat back and say, what is happening? How can we continue to allow this to happen? So Russians have told the Iranians that this is not the right time to do it. Iranians don't have to do it directly anything. The Chinese have been doing it. They have been trying to bring about these all the Palestinian groups together. So this kind of a situation, then whole of Arab world has become really vocal this time. And they have said that this was a violation. If you see the OIC resolution, Organization of Islamic Cooperation resolution, which was in favor of Iran and which clearly said that Iran's sovereignty was violated. I mean, that is something very important. So today, Israel is virtually, in a way, isolated by following a policy of defiance and destruction. It has defied all international rules and regulations. Unfortunately, nobody has sympathies for the killings of Hamas leaders. That's a fact. But if that is the strategy Israel would have applied from ab initio, from the very beginning, as soon as after October 7, and killing the leaders, they have all the information, they have all the intelligence, they have the best intelligence in the world, they could have done it. Then no country would have objected to really. But the civilian casualties, the mass displacements, the humanitarian disaster that has happened there, it has completely made the world look up. And America, which is today the only country which really fully supports Israel's right to defense, uh, has also got the problems. This time when he met Biden was very unhappy about this killing of Ismail Haniyeh, and America said we were not told. Then he went to Kamala Harris, 120 congressmen, Democrats. They avoided his address at the Congress. The President Trump also asked him, who is supposed to be his friend, to cut the deal very quickly. So today, coming to this thing, is that there is a deal on the table, which has been once again brought back by the United States, by Qatar and Egypt. And Hamas has got a new leader, Yahya Sinwar. Today, Iran has a new leader who is mainly reformist leader, may not be necessarily pro-West, but he wants to open with the West. So they also don't want to burn all their books. But they have been maintaining pressure on Israel, and situation still remains
And
very, very fragile.
that the new president has been selected by the supreme leader, that is Khamenei, indicates that there is a strong political will from the top.
Well, I think that as far as Iran is concerned, of course, everything happens with the blessings of the spiritual leader, Ayatollah Khamenei. But at the same time, I think that he was not the most preferred one. The most preferred one was the Speaker of the Parliament, who is a conservative. This person is Dr. Peskian is actually said to be a reformist, although the reformist or conservative reformist comparatively. And he has made a very good team, vice presidents and foreign ministers and others who are all professionals. His idea is to open up with the West once again, and so that Iran that has been under a lot of sanctions, and that is something that Israel really does not like, because Israel tries to encash the American sympathy on anti-Iranian policies, or anti that feeling and emotion which prevails in the United States. And he encashes on that. He always says that Iran is the trouble, Iran is the problem in the region. Whereas most of the Arab and Iranians are now learning to coexist in the region, because they have realized that with the big powers, we are only getting into trouble most of the times. So therefore, they are all trying to work within the region to somehow, it's very early days, but they are trying to work together in the region. So this deal, currently there is a ceasefire deal, and I believe that a team from Israel is also going. Mossad chief will be going, and I don't know from the whether Senwar is on board or not or whatever it is. But at the moment, they are all talking of revenge and retribution. At the same time, there are discussions which are taking place regarding the deal which is supposed to be concluded or finalized on August 15th. The biggest problem in that deal today is one is that, of course, there will be a ceasefire or a pause, and there will be an exchange of these 140 hostages. Several of them are dead and their bodies are there, in exchange for a significant number of Palestinian prisoners. And this pause will continue for a few weeks. Netanyahu says, and his ultra rightist group maintains that we give them more time, then they will reconsolidate and become a bigger threat. So his original goal of destruction of Hamas is something that is unlikely to be achieved in the first place, even though he's been able to kill very many of their leaders. But since, as the Israeli defense chief said, that we cannot defeat Hamas, he himself said, because it's an ideology. An ideology is driven by the Palestinian state. But they're using violence against Israel. They don't accept Israel's right to exist. That needs to be negotiated if they want any kind of a negotiated solution. So the only good thing, perhaps, that can come out of this whole thing, with which a lot of people have paid the price, both Israelis and Palestinians, I think that perhaps serious negotiations after November might occur, whether whoever is in power, for a two-state solution.
Right. So what you essentially said is that, and which is quite apparent, that no one can. Israel has first bombed and now is saying that they will join the peace process, which is impossible because Iran cannot join, and the axis of resistance that it has. So it will be completely irrelevant in Middle Eastern politics if it does so. So everything depends on the US election. And we will come back to this point. But for the moment, the entire Middle East is tired of wars. So, as you said, that and in fact, before this trouble broke out, before there was a agreement that was coming through between Saudi Arabia, Israel, and so there was. It seems that except these non-state actors, and the only state actor, that is Israel, which is interested in the war. And in Israel also, President Netanyahu's popularity has been down before the war. And it seems that, or several reports say that it is he who is the prime interested party in this war. So do you think that he has become a political hot potato for the US? And there may be a situation where that he may be dumped for greater
Well,
good
there
of
is no.
Israel and others. Otherwise, it has been a case. Israel was always under attack, or always never liked. They had little friends in Middle East, but now everyone is bound to oppose them. They cannot have friends.
Yes, you are quite right. The problem is that Netanyahu is a hawkish leader. And in his 17 years since 1996, he has also used Hamas to divide the Palestinian movement against the Palestinian Authority. So that if they are united, then they will start asking for a united Palestine or whatever it is. So he continued to work on that since they ruled in Gaza, Hamas, and the Fatah and Palestinian Authority rule in Ramallah, like this thing, in West Bank. What Netanyahu has done, let's see, this war, this is not the first time. This has been 4 times, and every time we have seen that the non-state actor Hamas has come out stronger with bigger surprises for the most powerful army in the region, basically. So Netanyahu's government today is ultra-right government. His ultra-right government does not want to give any concessions to Palestinians at all. They all favor the extension of the settlements. Thousands and thousands of people have been settled on the West Bank. You'll be surprised that when 1948, Israel and Palestine were actually created by a UN Security Council Resolution 181, Israel got 55% of the territory. Today, after 74 years, or 76 years, Israel has got 55% of the territory.
Okay.
No, 55 to 78, sorry. So you can imagine 55
So
to
they
70.
had 55% territory
The
in
next,
55,
in
40,
the beginning,
48. Now they have,
48, 78%
my
of
God.
the whole territory of the Israel-Palestine, which they call it from river to the sea area, or Judea Samaria, as the Israelis refer to it.
So that tells
Now,
that who expanded, at whose cost.
yes, they have expanded. I mean, these are these settlements. India is against these settlements because they violate all the international regulations, all the understandings, Oslo Accords, on whatever. I mean, there have been so many accords and agreements which were established essentially to set up the two-state solution. And all those have been violated because, moreover, that East Jerusalem was the capital, which is currently continues to be under the control of the Israeli state. So what is today with Netanyahu's situation is that he is, in my view, kind of sitting on a lion. If he gets down, the lion will eat him up, which means his political career is finished to a great extent. Under his watch, within 1 year of his taking over, this October 7 attacks happened, which was the biggest blot, essentially, on his career, in a way, or on the efficacy of their intelligence and their military. How could so many people come and kill 1,200 Israelis and take 250 hostages? That was unprecedented. It had never happened before after the Holocaust. But we saw it happen, which undermined the dependence or the high pedestal on which the world had put the Israeli intelligence agencies and the military, at least temporarily. That was one of the objectives of Hamas when they undertook this attack. Their second objective, in my view, was they saw that Israel was divided because Netanyahu wanted to take over more powers. And that's the problem that happened. And that's why he even diluted the constitution, diluted the uh, Supreme Court's rights, and there were domestic troubles happening. So this was an opportune moment for Hamas, which was working on it for quite some time, to do that. Thirdly, most important factor was we saw that, like the Abraham Accords under Trump, which had normalized ties between Israel and UAE, Bahrain, Sudan, and Morocco, and some other countries were going there. There were more normalization between Arab countries and Israel that was happening. And then we heard the biggest of them, the mightiest of them, the most richest of them, Saudi Arabia, which is also the leader of the Islamic world, especially the Sunnis, also was ready to normalize ties with Israel. Now, that was the red herring because of which Hamas knew that if Saudi Arabia normalizes relations with Israel, then the deal is done. There's nothing. They could not get anything. And that's why it happened. So Netanyahu today has, about as per some recent poll which was quoted in the time, it was about 72% Israelis want him to step down. And
Yeah.
it is a country where a lot of coalition governments are there. He's sitting on 14, 15 coalition parties. And many of them are ultra-right groups. So even if the elections are held, by virtue of the way the system works, He might even win 32%. He's still the height after his visit to the United States and showing that he has killed so many leaders. So he's claiming the victory that he has been able to greatly destroy Hamas, even though his own defense people, his own army, IDF chief, have said that it's impossible to defeat Hamas. So that is the kind of situation he is in. Thirdly, he is also has these corruption cases against him,
Yeah.
which while he is the prime minister, he is safe. But the moment he is not the prime minister, and obviously after the war stops, you will see that there will be a commission set up and all these responsibilities will be fixed. Israel is the only real functioning democracy in the country, in the region. And so they will obviously uh, fix responsibilities, and Netanyahu, the president, the chiefs of the army, the chiefs of the intelligence, all of them will come under the cloud. So he is trying to fight for that rather than going to the jail. But in the process, what he has done is he has antagonized the whole international community. He has created fissures with the countries with which it was normalizing
I think
ties.
more critically, he put the interests of his own country when at stake.
Yes, because of his own personal stakes.
Right.
That's the thing. And that's why, 72% of people want him to go. And
So
the people are still, you see, another problem is hostages. There are still 140 hostages.
I don't think that he has any more
And
interest in hostages. Otherwise, why did he bomb ahead of the peace deal?
no, actually, he would not have done it, but there are those who have dual passports and all. Many of them are American passport holders. The US is interested in getting them back. So it's quite this thing, though, because and he may not be personally interested, but then for the last 10 months, every day there are protests in the streets of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem against the government for not securing the release of the hostages. So there is a domestic pressure against him.
So what you were saying is that I mean, from here to November, we might see a lot of things, or in next 3 4 months, and we might see Netanyahu is out, and that is bringing some kind of temperature down in the region. That is one of the things that we can expect.
Well, it depends if the elections are held. Benny Gantz, who was the earlier government, he was there, then he was part of the war cabinet, he resigned. His defense minister is not on the same page as him as far as the governance of Gaza post war is concerned. So there are a lot of internal fissures in the overall leadership. People don't approve of his. The former prime minister, Barak, all the time keeps criticizing him for all his policies. He says he's placing himself above as you mentioned, above the interest of Israel. He has endangered Israel's security anyway.
Yes, it
So,
is never as dangerous.
yes, I mean, Hezbollah is a very strong army today. It's a non-state actor, but very powerful actor, supported by Iran. And they are on the border. Iran does not have a border with Israel. But Hamas on the one side, the Hezbollah on the other, then Houthis from the sea to the Red Sea. You know that
and
because of
and
Houthi
and
attacks.
uh, and he is making the entire world pay for this
Yes,
tension. This is where things
definitely.
have gone wrong for us. So,
Well,
sir,
it is there. I mean, nobody will support these kind of non-state actors. But the fact is, the way large number of civilians casualties have happened by his carpet bombing, collective punishment, as he's been accused of. Some are accusing him of genocide. The ICC has issued a warrant against him and the Hamas leaders. That is something that is very difficult for him to get extracted out of it unscathed.
death of 40,000 people is no joke.
Yes. And his own country. I mean, you imagine that large number of 700,000 or something Israelis are also displaced because of the border attacks by Hezbollah in Lebanon.
Right. The sense of invincibility is no more there.
Very true. That has been totally busted.
Right. Sir, now the Indian interest. India has interests in both Iran and Israel. The emerging world, the contest is not good for the emerging world, and we all are aware about the impact it can have on the energy economy in particular, energy economy and the shipping economy. So that will affect trade. But that apart, Indian interests are very critical. Iran is critical to our plan to reach out to the Central Asia and Caucasian region, to Russia. And on this side, Israel is critical for the IMEC. Israel is also a strategic partner, kind of. We have a lot of strategic interests with Israel. Now, how should we position ourselves in this contest if this contest breaks out, if something big happens? Because there are unofficial reports about Iran is really preparing for a big strike, whatever that means. What do
I
you
think that, one thing is, in my view, Iran will definitely do something. But how does it do? Whether it will be tit for tat, or whether it will be some other kind of situation, that we'll have to see how they react. Or they buy time and do that, because as of today, today's report clearly says that the Iranian government says that we are more for the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel than taking our revenge, which could also be some kind of obfuscation. But you know, they don't have to directly fight, as I said. They can. They have Hezbollah, and they will start showering missiles. Despite the Iron Dome, they'll have a lot of
I mean, Iran
casualties and
also has a
problems.
problem. It doesn't have many friends in the region, too many friends in the region, and these Hezbollahs and this axis of resistance are its friends. Its geopolitical power
They are in a way the tools
tools. So it
in the
cannot
region. Yes.
just dump them.
So,
It has to stand.
yes. No, it doesn't have dump. It can use them when it is a problem between Iran and Israel. Then they are meant absolutely. They are going to stand up for Iran and do the bidding for Iran. There's no doubt about it. Everybody knows about it. And but at the same time, what is Israel gaining out of it now by increasing it? By it is pushing United States once again in the region to help him save. Because if the United States tomorrow stops supplies of arms, today only they have given $3 billion or something like that. Now, if they stop supplying now, the economy has been affected very badly because 360,000 soldiers
I
or
think
the
money is
people who
not
are
the
the
bigger issue with Israel. I was looking at data. Israel is not the biggest recipient of American money, but it is the arms and other supplies which matter.
yes, arms and reserve plus $14
Support,
billion
support,
is not a joke.
the
You see,
support.
they need money, and today they need more. Army military equipment, they get the latest, plus their own technology is super. There's no doubt about it. They're technological leaders themselves. But at the same time, what is happening here is they get this money, and now today, when you are in the war situation, you have 360,000 people who are supposed to be working on your technological things. They are all deployed in the forces fighting these wars. Now, the war expands, then you'll need to have more people. Now, they're trying to get these ultra Orthodox Jews into it, and there is a protest against that. They don't have enough people to fight and enough people to man the industry. So it will have a compounding impact, which it is showing already. But that can still be managed by the United States and by other Western countries. Coming to India, you see, for us, Israel is our strategic partner. There is no doubt about it. Israel has always stood with India. There is tremendous support for Israel per se within India. We have defense and security as our main things. But that does not mean we blindly support Israel's invasion or punishment that it is doing, or for that matter, the expansion of the settlements. India has voted in the United Nations against Israeli settlements, all through. We have always maintained the policy that there should be a two-state solution, viable solution through dialogue and diplomacy. So Palestine an issue is something that has been a sacrosanct part of our foreign policy all through. And India has stood irrespective of the governments. On the other hand, we have dehyphenated our policies. That we have relations with Iran, we have relations with Saudi Arabia, we have relations with Palestine, and we have the relations with Israel. So we each relationship is standing on its own. Now, Iran is our civilizational partner, strategic partner. We, under the US sanctions, we had to discontinue importing oil from there.
Right.
But we have Chabahar port, which is a strategic port which provides us access to Afghanistan and to Central Asia and to the Caucasus. And that's very important for us. Also, having Iran as a friend is important to us for many other reasons as well. And Israel remains our friend. So that's not a cancelling out relationship. That one you can't have only one or the other. That's not true. When they during Dr. Peshkian's swearing-in ceremony, we had our minister Gadkari who was there. We had recently taken over the port for 10 years, the Chabahar port, which is a part of the international north-south transport corridor, which is going up to Russia and beyond to Europe. We also proposed this new another corridor during the G20 meeting, which is IMEC, India, Middle East, Europe Economic Corridor that you referred to. Now, that one is now under the docks because of the Israel-Hamas war. So once the war goes over, then only things will go beyond. Today, India and UAE are continuing to work on the, I would say, infrastructural part of it. But we need to do many
UAE
other
is
things
also
by
our
Saudi
third
Arabia.
largest trade partner.
That's right. And Saudi Arabia the fourth. So this trade corridor has to pass through all these countries and go up to Greece.
Right.
So that is currently, in my view, nothing much is happening on that, except between India and UAE. That's continuing. So we are interested that number one, the war does not escalate. And number two, that this ends as quickly as possible. And number three, negotiations for some kind of a two-state solution start. India personally will be impacted if there is an expansion and escalation of war for 3-4 reasons. Number one is economy. We had a lot of investments and this trade, and as we mentioned. Number two is energy security. And number three is expatriates. We have 9.5 million Indians living there. If there is a war happens, with the conflagration all over, then Indians will get caught in that. So that will be a very major challenge and disaster.
The economy of Kerala will go bust.
Yes. Kerala and also, I mean, to evacuate them, to bring them and all that, it's not easy. They're remitting about $50 billion a year to India, which is about 1/10 of your foreign exchange reserves.
Right.
So they are important. Then you have these links, trading maritime links, trade routes. They will get impacted, like it has been done by the Houthi attacks in the Red Sea. So it is for India, economic growth, safety, security, the stability and security of West Asia is very, very important.
So the last question from here. Never before, I think, the world peace or stability depended so much on election in one country. So that is coming. And you also mentioned that the connection between the Middle East crisis and the US election. Now we there is a clarity on Mr. Donald Trump's approach, some kind of clarity that he may divest from Ukraine or the Russia-Ukraine contest. He may also have, work for de-escalation of the tension in Middle East. What would be the situation if the Democrat Kamala Harris comes to power?
I think that if Kamala Harris comes to power, and one thing is that USA as of now is the only hyperpower in the world, which has the capacity to operate anywhere and everywhere. They very often do it for wrong reasons, but they have the capacity and the power. Number two, so any elections, any leader there becomes the most powerful leader in the world. Whatever he does have an impact on the relationships. Now, today there are 2 or 3 major conflict points. One is China and the US competition and contestation. So Indo-Pacific is hot. You have ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine, which is seen as Russia-US war. And you have this Middle Eastern war, which also has a potential of escalation with some wrong calculations, and if not kept under the radar. Now, in all these three, the role of the United States is very, very important. I always say that if the US really wants it, it can stop both the wars in no time. So if Trump comes, Trump has a more transactional approach. He has already said that as soon as he comes to power, he'll stop the Russia-Ukraine war in 24 hours. We are already seeing the impact of that statement. There is some movement between Russia and Ukraine which is going on now. And there are talks of some kind of discussion on the what future course. If Kamala Harris, let's say she wins, and she is going to give a tough competition to Trump, then I would say that Democrats are also driven by the deep state in the country. You see, in the United States, politicians come and go, but there is a deep state that also dictates. So I don't see that their policy towards support to Israel will be diluted. But at the same time, they are really fed up of Netanyahu and uh, he's affronting them all the time, not listening to Biden from day one. So they will continue to follow a policy whereby, and of course, if you remember the Barack Obama's time, the UN did this uh, joint comprehensive, uh, nuclear agreement with between Iran and Europe and America was signed. Now that agreement might be revived with the
Yes,
new government in Iran, and
that is
then
Iran's.
which is
Iran
not.
hasn't brought out the card, but definitely it will
Yes.
come up with that.
Yes. And if Iran does not react heavily at this stage, let us say it does not escalate as a retaliatory measure overtly, I think that the Americans will think that Iran is ready for talks yet again. So we are looking at a very hazy picture because Trump is not a warmonger in one way or the other. He may talk all kinds of things, but he's not. The others are also tired now because it is impacting the whole world. The economy is being impacted, stability is impacted. You are having more and more rightist governments in Europe and
But
America.
I
Now
think
that is
it is more difficult for them to come back from because they escalated this Russia-Ukraine thing. They created this Russia-Ukraine thing. So it will be difficult for them to de-engage. Maybe they want to de-engage, but it will be difficult.
yes, it is difficult, but if Trump also has good relations with Putin,
Putin.
and so
No,
he is
for
counting
Trump,
on
it is
that.
clear, but if it is Democrats, then it is a difficult
Even
proposition.
Democrats also don't have any. They will remain anti-Russia. They will remain anti-Russia, but they are realizing the limits of the backing Ukrainian. Ukrainians still win. If you go to the Europeans are having problems of their own. And unless they come in direct conflict, there is not going to be a major difference on the battleground.